All right, boys and girls, to begin, you want landscape direction. You're going to put a mark near the center, about 2 finger heights. At the bottom, 3 finger heights. You're going to draw a little dashed line near the center, and then you're going to connect them with a curved line. We are creating the little stamen on the inside of the flower. Then I'm going to draw a couple ovals and connect them as well. We're going to make them smaller as they come out further towards the sides. I like to change the direction of the ovals just to make them look a little bit more natural. They wouldn't all go in the same direction. And then we're ready for our petals. So our first petal is going to come behind. We're going to go all the way up to the top of the page, and it's going to continue past the page or run off of the paper. My next petal is going to come out. I'm going to kind of shape it a little bit like it's folding, and that's also going to flare out to the edge of the paper. Remember, we're monumentalizing, we're making them larger than. Then we can start to put the opposite side petal in. Same thing, curving it up and over. Up at the top, it's going to go behind that center leaf and kind of loop around. And then we're going to put our bottom 2 petals. They kind of flare out and curl down. So I'm going to do these little half circles coming off the base. And then I'll bring the top edge of that petal kind of straight out to the side with a slightly wavy line. And repeat that on the opposite side so I can get the petals that are folding down. From here, so once I've got the bottom in here, I'm going to want to add in my stem. I'm going to begin with my pink oil pastel, and I'm going to be coloring the stamen in with that pink oil pastel. I will finish the tops with my white oil pastel.
All right, so you should have had paint. It's got red and purple mixed in it. So I'm not mixing it entirely. I'm just kind of swirling to pick up variations of the color. And then we can come in and start to paint each petal. Now what I like about having the swirled kind of colors is that we get a lot of movement. We start to see the way that the petal grows and flows into this outward motion, and we can really emphasize that movement of the flower petal and its growth. It also gives us all these different color variations, which adds a lot of interest into our painting. And we're going to come in later on with a white oil pastel and add some highlights and reflections once our paint has dried. When we come back in with our oil pastel, it'll also help us create a little bit of separation. You'll notice as I continue painting that my petals start to kind of blend in together a little bit, but we can separate that in our oil pastels when it's dry. All right, so at this point, I am going to let this dry, and then next week, we're gonna come back. We're gonna touch some of these areas up with our oil pastels. We're gonna add a little bit of some highlights in to our flower with the oil pastel. All right, now that our flower is dry, we're gonna do a few finishing details, and then this project will be complete. So down below, we wanna work on our stem. I'm going to use crayons. You can use watercolors, you could use oil pastels, you can use markers, but we're going to make our stem green, and I want to create some of those values or tints and shades. So I'm going to come in with some blue right at the top of it, right underneath those flower petals, because that's where my shadow would be cast from those flowers. And I'm going to overlap or color on top with green using some of those blending techniques that we've practiced earlier this year. Paper underneath there, creating a weird texture. And then I can finish with my lighter green. So here is one way of creating that stem. I want to clean this up in here. It was a little bit challenging to paint around those, so I'm going to come in and color the tops, cleaning up those lines, work with my pink, and clean up the lines. And then this particular flower has these bright whites near the base, which is kind of opposite of a lot of things where it's darker on the inside and then lighter as we get to the outside. But for this particular one, it has this bright white kind of center on each of the petals. So I know this petal is overlapping. I'm just going to come in and kind of create that in there. I can create this in the center as well. And because it's an oil pastel, I can kind of work this in just by rubbing and blending. And creating it coming out on this side. Just to give it a little bit of that extra detail known in this particular flower. This one I think looks a little flat, so I'm going to kind of round it out. All right, so this is it. Once we add these few little details, we can be finished with it. If you really wanted to do something in your background or your areas around it, you could come in with watercolors, you could come in with markers, maybe add some greens or blues, giving that sky and detail to it. I am happy with it being white, so I think I'm going to leave it be. Hope you enjoyed it.